Hello YouTube. Well, if I have a little bit of that mad scientist look, you'll understand why in a minute. All the parts came in, whee, and the first thing I did was I configured and hooked up the wireless thermometers for the fridge. The wireless base station, and of course the thermostats or transmitters are in the freezer top respectively and the fridge below. So I've got 19 on the freezer, which I'd like to see that lower, but if I go lower on that, I'm going to have some ungodly temperature on the fridge. So 19's okay. People say 0. I did take out a lower baffle in the freezer that I may put back in to see if it lowers the freezer temperature without disturbing the refrigerator temperature. So we'll see. I'm still experimenting, but that's how that thing's working out. All right, now back to the big news, or the big deal, which is the solar panel. It came. It's great. It's a little flimsier. The flexible panels are they're kind of wobbly, kind of wobble board kind of feel to them, which is that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be flexible. So, you know, that's I'd rather have it flexible than not flexible. But having said that, I have it inside, nicely stored where it's not going to get damaged or anything. And in the meantime, I'm out here. The first thing that you kind of have to figure out is the wiring. How are you going to run wires? I got some heavy duty wire. It's 40 amp wire. The reason I got that is in case the run is a little longer than what maybe normally happens, because I'm kind of winding around places. The wire is heavy, so it should be able to carry the current without having too much of a voltage drop because of the length of the wire. If you lengthen the run, use thicker wire, heavier gauge wire. So I just happened to get a remnant at Home Depot that was the right stuff, the right gauge, and that's what I'm using. All right, so here's the back of the Roadtrek. It kind of looks like a bomb blew up in here. I've got everything kind of shoved over here, and the seat outside, the seat cushion outside. I took this panel off over these things here, these components. There's the battery right there with the fuse panel legend sitting on top of it. I got to make sure and put that back over here in the box where it belongs. So what have I done so far? Well, I threaded the wire through the vent. Now, it's not going to run down here like this. It's going to run up on top of the roof. So there'll be a little pigtail here that'll, with a couple of MC4 connectors, that'll go up and match up and be able to plug into the solar panel that if, as everybody says, I should just mount it on the roof. If I wind up doing that, then that's what I'm planning for, is kind of the worst case scenario. A fixed solar panel on the roof is my worst case scenario. So that being the case, I'm planning for that. If I'm still open to, you know, making this portable and moving it around, this pigtail will serve my purpose to do that. I'll be able to connect an extension cable to it and then run it wherever I want to, and of course that's temporary, so I can disconnect it and flip the wires back up on top and have a magnet or a clip or something up there to hold the wires up on the roof when I'm not using them as a portable solar panel. But more and more I'm leaning to the idea that it might be just better to put one on the roof. Now, inside the van, where does that wire lead or go? Well, we'll get up in the van here. All right, so that wire that you saw outside is this wire right here inside. So it's behind the air conditioning wiring and that stuff. And then there's already a hole here for the air conditioning cord to come through and plug into this 110 outlet here. So I just ran the solar cord or solar cable through the same hole. Then it will make its way up here in this closet area, and of course I can pin this cord down, and ultimately it's going to come up and sit right here. Then the charge controller is going to sit right up here. It's got a three lights working on it, and I don't need any more lights blinking, flashing, stuff like that, so I want to keep them in the closet. I can always open the door and look and see things, but I don't want the lights outside blinking, shining, all that kind of stuff. I already have lights here on this connector here and another connector under there that blink and flash, and I don't need more of that stuff. So that takes care of the solar on the roof. That'll connect right. If we look at it, the solar connections are right here. Now the battery connections are right here. There is no load connection on this Wanderer, which it's supposed to be simple. It is simple, so if it doesn't work out, I'll get another controller, but I'm going to try this for now. The battery wire, I'm going to drill a hole right here in the corner. Right here. And where that's going to come out is right here. Right up here in this corner. Pretty close to that corner. Okay? And then the wire is going to go down here behind this curtain, so that camouflages it pretty good. And then I'm going to get some clear clips like these that hold the curtain in place. I'm going to get a few of those. They make them for mirrors and different things. You can buy them at Home Depot. So I'm going to get a couple of those and then pin this wire down against the sidewall of the van. Then it will proceed down here under the cover that goes on top of this area. It'll go behind that, down here. So then this battery wire will come over here and connect positive and negative, and that basically is it. That completes the whole solar panel connection.
One thing we're going to notice about the wiring I'm using is that one strand, this particular strand, has a rib on it. And the other strand is completely smooth. For these purposes, the rib strand is going to be the negative side of things. The positive side is going to be the smooth side. So that will enable us to make sure each connection is correct and the way it's supposed to be. Everything will be consistent. Okay, so we've made 2 of the 8 connections that we have to make here. We only have 8 connections to make. 2 here, positive and negative. On the charge controller, those 2 wires will terminate here, the battery side. Then we have 4 connections to make here. 2 here, and 2 to the solar panel outside. So that's it. We've got this end done. We're going to go up top and where the charge controller is going to be and cut the wire. I have it running out here and up the wall behind the curtain through the hole I drilled, and it will come up here. This other wire is the wire that's going to go outside to the solar panel. I'm going to cut it somewhere right in here so I have some tail for it, the wire to connect to the charge controller. I cut a little notch up here so the wire sits down, and the lid of the box right here so the lid of the box can sit on top flush. And we'll go ahead and put that on now because we're done with this area. Okay, so here we go. We'll just tighten the screws and be done with that. Alright, so here's the 2 ends of the battery wire, and we're going to connect them into the battery terminals here on the charge controller. And there we have them connected. We've got a couple of lights going there, which is good news. And you can see they're really bright. And the last thing I want is more bright light in the van at night. Hence the reason this is going in this closet or cupboard. So here we've completed step 1 of the wiring. And at this time, I'm going to set the battery type, which requires me to do a certain procedure. So let's go do that. It's down here, setting battery type. So I have to hold the gray button for 7 seconds until the light flashes. All right. Then we'll turn the page and see what I got to do next. Alright, so up here it's telling us to, once it flashes, to click until the desired battery type light turns on. Well, my battery light type is flooded. So there's 3 positions. and I'm expecting to click down to that third position. So let's do it. All right, as we can see, the indicator now is green. It's not flashing, even though it looks like it's flashing. We'll see the difference here in a second. I need to get down to red because my battery happens to be a flooded battery. So let's press this button and see what happens. Nothing happens. Okay. Well, it says if nothing happens, click it again and hold it for 7 seconds. Okay, now we see it flashing, so I'm going to click and click again. And now I've got the color I want. And then I think I just let it go and it'll stay solid. There we are. So we've selected our battery type, red, flooded. So we've got the battery all connected now. The next step is to strip these wires and connect them over here to the solar side of things. So there we have the wire stripped, and once again we're going to connect the ribbed wire to the negative and the smooth wire to the positive. All right, so we've got our wires in place down here. Our lights on. Now it's just a matter of finding some screws and screwing the Wanderer charge controller in its new home. So there we have it. The charge controller is all wired up and mounted in its permanent home here. The wires look pretty neat. They're okay. This is a closet. I'm not real concerned. And now we're going to connect those MC4 connectors and hook up the solar panel. All right, so now we're going to be connecting the cable that's in the van with its open bare wires to this connector that's on the solar panel. These two connectors, the positive and the negative. This one's positive and this one here is negative. And here are the outsides of the connectors, the comparable ones here. And here are the internal parts. So this positive connector here needs to have a negative, I'm sorry. So this positive connector here is a female. We can see that by looking down the barrel. Or we can simply take the pin, the male part, and push it in and see, oh yeah, that fits in there. Okay, so this end has to go on the positive cable. I know this sounds kind of dumbbell stuff, but I am a dumbbell, so I need to get this planted in my head perfectly. This goes on the positive cable. This goes on the negative cable. This end has the male fitting that corresponds with this female fitting. we can test that by simply taking the open fitting and pushing it on. And yes, in fact, that's how we determine which one of these goes where. All right, so now I've got the male end crimped onto the smooth positive cable so it can fit into the female end on the other end of the cable that goes into the solar panel. I have to put these parts on so it can attach to the part like this that's on the solar panel. Okay, so first I had to slide on the threaded cap that fits onto this part here. Then I had to slide the gasket on that fits this way and bites into the cable and creates the weather-tight seal. So I had to slide that on. And the reason for all of that is because once I slide this on and snap it, it's irreversible. I can't then take it apart, I don't think. So now that I have all the parts in place, I'm going to snap it together. All right, there we have that part. And as I thought, you might be able to get this off, but it would be quite a job. It's pretty well on there. So now I just need to put the gasket in place and slide and thread this cap on back here. We'll try and do it one-handed. There we go. We can get it part way, but I need to get a wrench and some pliers to actually tighten that down. It actually has to be, this edge here has to be flush with this edge up here. And there we have it, all nice and tightened down and ready to go. Now it's time to do the other cable. All right, there we have it. Both cables in place. Now it's time to connect it to our solar panel. All right, so here's the smooth charge controller end coming from the charge controller, and we're going to connect that to the other end coming from the solar panel. These are both positives now. So here's the positive cable from the solar panel, the other end from the charge controller. We're going to snap that together. There we are. Now we'll do the negative side. So there it is, a blinking light telling us, in fact, we're charging the battery with solar power. So I would call this a thumbs up success. We've done it. Okay, so this is by no means a permanent setup, but I did use a couple of magnets with hooks to hang the solar panel right here on the side of the van. It's not really in the sun. As you can see, the sun is still a little bit away from it in terms of where it is, the bright sun. It's just in, I don't know, reflected sun. So let's take a look and see what it's producing. So I've got the multimeter here set to volts, and I'm going to see what's going down to the battery. Let's take a look. Okay, so 1269. Let's see what's coming into the solar panel. 1284. Okay, so that's not in direct sunlight. Let's see if we can get a little more sunlight on this issue. Okay, well, as you can see now, the sun's pretty low in the sky. So let's go in and check and see how much sun I'm getting. So here we are at the battery, blinking away. And we're getting about about 13 volts. Let's see what's coming down from the solar panel. About 13 volts. So I'd say everything looks like it's working pretty good. So let's check out what these flashing lights mean. Slow flashing and solid means the battery is in charge mode. Slow flashing for both means that the battery is in float charge. Other things, fast blinking, no light, those are all indicative of problems. So I'm going to just stick with slow flashing on the charger and solid or slow flashing on the battery. I'm good. That's enough to remember. I have a voltmeter to do the rest. The last thing is this reference guide. It's always handy to keep this kind of stuff nearby, so I'm going to just slide it back there behind the wires. And here we'll take a look. I've got slow flashing and solid. So the test would tell us the correct answer is battery is charging. All right, well, everything's back to normal. So that's it. The solar panel's in. The solar panel works. The design idea or the thought I had about hanging it outside seems to be working fine. I've just mocked it up temporarily, but I have the magnets and stuff to hook it up, you know, permanently, deploy it permanently out there when I want to hang it outside and have solar panel. Also, I've thought a lot about it, and a lot of people still think the best way to go is to put it on the roof. And I kind of almost might sort of agree with that. And so I got to clean the roof because you got to put it on a clean surface. And so that's going to be next. And if I mount it, I'll be doing it as many people have already done it with VHB tape, or I may use some very high bond Velcro, because people have said that stuff's almost impossible to get off. So driving around with the wind blowing on it probably isn't going to knock it off. And that's it. We'll see how that goes. But that's kind of a down the road phase 2. I'm operational, and that's all I'm concerned about at this point. So if this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you think it'd help somebody else, share it with them, please. And as always, comment as you see fit. Till the next video, we'll see you later.